Hey there, Travel Bees! Welcome back to another week. I'm super excited to be here and talk about today's topic, which is going to be comparing Ginnie Springs and Ichetucknee Springs. So if you guys tuned in last week, I talked about going camping at Ichetucknee Springs, and I unexpectedly ended up going to Ginnie Springs as well, which was a very good treat. And I have some big comparisons that I want to share with you guys in comparing both of them because they are so different and way more different than I ever thought they would be. First and foremost, if you're here for the first time, welcome to my channel, and I am so happy to have you here. I post new videos every week to try and help encourage, inspire, and just get everyone out there traveling. Right now, coronavirus is going on, so I've been doing a lot of domestic traveling tips and such like that, but I'm still doing tips and tricks for traveling internationally as well as I do a Travel Tip Tuesday every Tuesday live, where you get to ask people from the travel industry about different topics and about different things in regards to how the travel industry is changing and what's going to be moving forward. If you guys want to check that out, please go check it out on my channel and check out those other videos that I have. So getting back to it, Ginnie Springs versus Ichetucknee Springs. Which one is better and what do I recommend? Well, if you guys want to hear that, just stay tuned to the end because I am going to give my recommendations and why I think these. But after you hear this video, you might have your own perspective of what you would like to better suit your travel. So the first thing that I want to talk about is what type of parks these are. So Ichetucknee Springs is a state park, and that's pretty common, right? But Ginnie Springs is actually privately owned. So whereas Ichetucknee Springs is owned by the state, Ginnie Springs is privately owned by individuals. So that actually makes a huge difference in the whole process because there is so many different intricate differences between them and rules that apply to Ichetucknee Springs that don't apply to Ginnie Springs. So keep that in mind as we move forward, but that was the first difference between Ichetucknee and Ginnie Springs that I saw. Now, I went camping at Ichetucknee Springs on 4th of July weekend, so woo, had those fireworks. If you didn't check out that video of my first vlog piece of me camping at Ichetucknee Springs, make sure to check that out. I'll link it above and below in the description, but it was an awesome little tribute to my trip, and it was really fun. I did some great recommendations of different camping gear that I would recommend, but also I brought you guys on the journey with us through the springs and really had some awesome shots of everything going on. Camping at each of these locations are completely different. I never would have expected walking into Ginnie Springs to see what I did. So because Ichetucknee Springs is a state park, there is not camping on site. There is an off-site campground that's about 5 to 10 minutes away by car. And at that campsite, it's a privately owned campsite, and there they have a really great atmosphere. It's very comfortable. You have space. You're not like piled on top of each other. And their primitive site, which I was at site W, so if you guys end up going there to Ichetucknee Springs Campground, I highly recommend going to site W. It was my favorite amongst all of the different ones, and I just happened to get lucky because when I called, they only have 2 sites left, and W was one of them, and it was my favorite. The atmosphere there is completely different. It's very homey. You get in there, they have like a little pig in the office and such like that, and they're open to answering any questions that you have about what's going on, and it's right in the middle of getting to the north end of Ichetucknee and the south end of Ichetucknee. So depending on what you're doing, whether you're kayaking or whether you're looking to tube, they will guide you every step of the way to make sure that you guys are getting onto the right path. Now for Ginnie Springs, camping is on site, which has some pluses, but also some minuses. The pluses of that are you're already in the park. So now you can walk from your campsite to the springs and be ready. Wake up in the morning and go to the springs. So that's pretty nice. But the campsites, some of the campsites are right on top of each other. There's less trees. It's not as campground feeling that I would expect when going camping because I want a lot of trees around me. I want to feel embraced in nature. And it's a little bit different at Ginnie Springs because they have a primitive sites that's just a field. And it has some trees in there and stuff like that, but it's just a big field and there's a bunch of tents that are there, really depending on the weekend that you're going. If you're going on a very heavily booked weekend, like like a holiday, there's gonna be a lot of people there. And Ginnie Springs does not care about partying. These folks are partiers. So if that's not what you're looking for, just keep that in mind. But they do have a lot more offers, so stay tuned, because even though they have that whole atmosphere of partying, there's some really cool aspects that they have about their campground in general. So talking a little bit about that. So Ichetucknee Springs is less popular than Ginnie Springs. So what does that mean? That actually means that there are less people going to Ichetucknee Springs, which I really like, and just created a whole nother atmosphere in the park itself. Now, Ginnie Springs is a lot more popular, way more crowded, a lot more people, which is fine if that's what you like. And if you're looking for a good time and you want to bring a huge group of your friends, Ginnie Springs might be for you. But it really depends on the ambiance that you're looking for and the springs themselves. You might not be camping at the end of the day, right? So if you're not camping at the end of the day and you're just visiting these places on a day trip, then there is a lot of different aspects that differ between them in this case as well. Now, one of the major differences that I saw was that Ichetucknee Springs has beautiful water, crystal clear throughout the park. So you are floating down this river and it is this beautiful blue-green color and it's pretty clear, so you can take your goggles and you can look down, and it's really just a beautiful aspect of the whole ambiance. You're also in a smaller river, so the springs aren't as wide, so you're in a smaller tight-knit path when you're going down the Ichetucknee River. Now in Ginnie Springs it's a lot bigger, so it's a lot wider, which is nice, but it's not actually springs that spring clear water through the whole way through. So the tube run that you're gonna do, you're gonna start at the beginning of the tube run with Ginnie Springs, and you're gonna float down this river. Now this is more of a river, it's more of a tea-colored aspect that you're gonna get from the river, so it's not very clear, but it's fine. It's actually going to be warmer too because it's not that pure spring water. So it's a little bit warmer in that tea-colored river. And then when you're floating down the river at Ginnie Springs, you're able to float down that river, and then you're able to float into these little pockets. And those little pockets in the river are the springs. And it is a really cool effect when you're going down this river, and it's pretty warm. I mean, it's still kind of cold depending on the time of year that you go. But you'll be floating down and then you float into the springs and it instantly changes. So you're going from this tea-colored water and it's like a line straight through, and then it's automatically like this crystal clear blue-green water that's absolutely gorgeous. And you feel that temperature difference right away, because then it's like 75-degree water all the way to 65-degree water, and there's a major drop and you feel it. So it's really kind of cool in the aspect of that, seeing that difference. But it is really beautiful when you're going down that river and you have the option to be able to go into these different paths. I'm going to put up a map of what it kind of looks like so that you guys can get a better gauge of what I'm talking about, because there's just pretty much this river all along and then these little pockets you can come in and out of that are going to go into the springs. So that brings me to my next point with Ginnie Springs. So Ginnie Springs actually has 6 different springs that you can kind of pocket into and go into, which is kind of cool, right? There's 6 different areas in which you can kind of check out, and they have pretty amazing diving there from what I've heard. It's really cool that they have that aspect and diversity in their land. It's a huge area. It was quite overwhelming, to be honest, when I first got there, because I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that there's so many different springs. I was like trying to get a lay of the land, and it was quite overwhelming, to be honest. Ichetucknee Springs is pretty to the point, and you're gonna just float down this one river. You're either floating down it with a tube or kayaking up it with a kayak. So it's pretty simple. There's just 2 entrances to Ichetucknee, either the north end or the south end. Now, what was really cool about Ginnie Springs is that they actually had rope swings. This wasn't actually provided by the park. It looks like they are put there by other people on the private properties that are on the other side of the river. So this river that you're floating into these different springs is Ginnie Springs and that whole area. And then the other side of the river, of that tea-colored river, is the private property. But there are rope swings. There's 2 along that river lane that you can get up, and people are using them, and it's super fun. I went on my first rope swing experience, and that was pretty awesome. I'll attach a quick clip of what that looked like in the time that I actually made it and did it right. If you want to check out those bloopers of the ones where I didn't do so well, go ahead and check out that video that I tagged earlier about my trip to Ichetucknee Springs, because I included it in there for you. Now, one of the most important aspects that you're going to want to think about is price. Now, this is a huge difference when it comes to Ichetucknee and Ginnie Springs. Now, I've got some notes here on what those actual prices are. Now, for Ichetucknee Springs, the entrance fee is $6 for a car. So that is 2 to 8 people can be in that car, and it's just going to cost you $6 to get in. Or if you're just in the car by yourself, it's $4. Now, that varies completely differently to Ginnie Springs. Ginnie Springs, it really depends. If you're just going for the day, you are going to be paying, what I paid was $15 per person, but they said that sometimes with holidays, depending on when you're going, it could be $20 a person or $30 a person. So it doesn't matter if you're in one car, it's going to cost you $15 or $20 per person to just get into the park, which is kind of a chunk of change if you have multiple friends, especially compared to Ichetucknee Springs. Now, the two prices are the same. So two pricing is $6 at Ichetucknee and two pricing at Ginnie Springs is $6 as well. But if you're camping at Ichetucknee Springs Campground, you're able to get the tubes ahead of time there, and they're only $4. So you do save $2 there if you're camping at the campground that's located at Ichetucknee Springs, or near Ichetucknee Springs. Now, Ichetucknee Springs does have a tram service that is available that's about $5 to $6 if you want to get a wristband to be on it all day long. So that's not too bad, but Ginnie Springs does not have a tram service at all. But you're not required to use a tram service. It's just another level of service that you guys can get to be able to not walk around as much. Now, if you're camping at either of these places, again, I told you that Ichetucknee Springs is a separate campground that is privately owned, that is kind of affiliated with the Ichetucknee Springs State Park. You're going to be paying $20 per night for 2 people if you're camping in a primitive site at Ichetucknee Springs Campground. Or you'll pay $35 if you want access to electric and water on your campsite, and that's for 2 people. So that includes 2 people. That's great, right? But camping at Ginnie Springs, this is kind of where it gets crazy. You can pay $23 to $28 depending on if you're doing a weeknight or a weekend. And this does include the entrance fee, but that price of $23 to $28 is per person. So that's kind of a huge jump compared to Ichetucknee Springs. That is per person, per night. So both of these locations are really close to each other. They are only 22 minutes away from each other, which was why I ended up going there last minute, because it was so cool to just be able to go to another spring and experience that after experiencing Ichetucknee. I was kind of blown away by how different everything was, how Ginnie Springs is just a lot more of a party-esque feel. There's a lot more people, there's a lot more going on, but there's a lot more to do. And then Ichetucknee Springs is really just this cool, calm, and collected spring that's really nice. You're more submerged in nature, and it's truly a great experience. So my suggestion is, depending on what you're looking for, if you're looking for a more relaxing nature feel to your experience in camping or day trip to a spring, I highly recommend going to Ichetucknee Springs. Now, Ginnie Springs is a whole nother ball game. So if you're looking for something that you want to go and do like a big party weekend, or you want to take a huge group of your friends and you guys want to kind of like party and like you're really going to experience more people but more to do. If you're looking for a more party-esque feel, you don't mind being around a lot of people, and you kind of just want a diverse options in what you can do in regards to like activities, then I would recommend Ginnie Springs for you. It really just depends on what atmosphere you're looking for. It can really just depend. What I will say is the camping experiences at both are completely different. So if you are wanting to be more in nature, Ichetucknee Springs is for you. If you don't mind being around a lot of people, Ginnie Springs is a good option as well. If you're just doing day trips to each of these places, I do think both of them have great aspects to check out. Ichetucknee Springs, you can do a 3.5 hour long ride down the river as long as the north end is open, and it's pretty nice and relaxing where you can just relax, take a step back, and enjoy. Now, Ginnie Springs, again, there are more people, so you might not be able to get as much of a relaxed feel. There's going to be a lot more people there with their loud music and kind of just, enjoying in a more party sense of a theme, which is fine, but there's still a lot of nature and you're able to get more activities in, like this rope swinging, and able to go to these different springs, and some of them have more people in them than others. Honestly, if you're camping at one or the other, I would highly recommend taking a trip to both of them at the same time, because I thought it was really cool to get a different feel for both of them. I liked the aspect that I was camping at the Ichetucknee campground and had my more secluded to myself campground, and then I checked out Ichetucknee Springs, and then 22 minutes away, only 22 minutes, you could get to Ginnie Springs and then just pay to enter and go there for a day trip and then come back to your campground if you want a little bit more of a secluded experience, and you can still get the best of both worlds. So what's wrong with that, right? So really, depending on what you guys are looking for, those are the biggest comparisons between both of these springs. Both are an amazing time, both are absolutely gorgeous, and both you will find fun in, I promise. I hope you guys found this video helpful. Give this video a big thumbs up if you liked it. Make sure you subscribe to my channel and check out my other videos that I've done, and let me know what you guys' feedback is. If you guys enjoyed this video, leave me a comment too. Let me know what you guys want to hear about in the future. If there's something that you want me to talk about, because I want to make sure that you guys are getting the information that you want. If you have any more questions, feel free to leave me a comment, and I promise I'll answer your comment. That's all for now. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your week. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you guys next week. Bye!